All right, welcome to the Corpus Christi Songwriter Podcast. I'm Jules.
I'm Jimmy.
And I am Josh, also known as Yosh sometimes.
Should I go by Jules for this episode?
That's
Josh,
right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yes, sir. Is that what you...
Yes, sir.
That's right. We have none other than Josh Glenn of Josh Glenn Experiment, and also Yosh from Yosh Yimmy.
That's right.
My musical cohort in our Americana folk duo, indie. I don't know, whatever we are. That's
whatever you think we sound like. Yeah.
Yes.
We got it.
So, perusing your website here, and I try to find a quote that somebody has written about you, and then here's the first one that popped up here: blending classic singer-songwriter elements with unique indie folk sounding, using looping pedals to braid clever riffs and atmospheric sounds into a cosmic folktronic dance party.
Who wrote that?
Marfa Bachnet. Oh, you wrote that.
Yes. I stole I didn't want to say it was written by me, so I said it was written by one of my chickens. The chicken has good taste. Just she does. She's like biggest chicken fan
of all the chickens. That chicken used the word folktronica.
Yeah.
You know?
I like that. When people ask me like what do you sound like, I feel like that's a word that comes to mind. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't have like electronica in it though, so I don't know how accurate that really is. But somebody said Folkana, just like, but that also doesn't. I don't know. How would you describe it?
I cite the psychedelic folktronica. I kind of it makes sense to me.
I say mad folk scientist.
There you go.
I feel like like I'm just in my dungeon, turning knobs and like making sounds and like crazy delays and reverse guitars and just. Is
it a strange thing? You find yourself, feeling that it's a strange thing to be dealing with acoustic instruments and all these pedals,
Yeah, I mean, I just always loved the acoustic guitar. My first band was actually in a three-piece punk rock band. We were pop punk, and I played a lot of electric guitar. And then my guitar broke. It like busted. Something in it like busted, and so like I had to take it to the shop. And I was stuck with my acoustic guitar, and I just fell in love with the sound of the acoustic guitar. But later with the looping stuff, like I fell in love with creating organic sounds, like using the acoustic guitar to kind of create like a percussive beat, a thump, palm muting the strings, and you just get so much more sound. You can't get that on an electric guitar. I mean, people do looping stuff with electric guitars and they just have like a digipad or something like that. But I think just I guess I didn't really know what I was getting into when I got the looping pedal. I was just like, let me explore this. I really got a looping pedal to get better at, solos and stuff. That was my initial goal. And then this style just kind of developed from it, spending hours in my room, just kind of noodling away. And I did get better at, playing some solos, but I don't really consider myself super good guitar player. I always tell people I play these like real simple riffs, and using the looping pedal, I can kind of stack these real simple riffs on top of each other, and it just makes me sound better than I really am. And but I mean, I've been doing that for a long time, and I guess like my what I really kind of gravitate to is my rhythm and then singing. And so I really enjoy singing, and I think I get that from my mom. She was in a travel choir growing up. Just kind of like word vomit, all this stuff. And I'm like all over the place. I have a tendency to go off track. And
man.
You gotta steer me.
We like that here, very much so.
Do you think you're like on an island at times? Because I feel like as a looper, like you kind of are your own self-contained thing. Like your rig is set up the way you use your rig, and no one else can use your rig.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I do. Yeah. You kind of, and even in each individual thing that you're working on at any given moment, what I do is I'll practice like a certain foundation. Like I'll have like a way to start it. Okay, I know that it starts off with this, little beat, and then it has this riff, and then I go to this other part, And then the rest of the song, as I can just I get to a certain point where I know I have a foundation, and I've kind of built the island, so to speak. And then like I try to like, plant some seeds here, plant some, mushrooms over here, maybe like sprinkle some sand, sprinkle some different soil, and just kind of explore, kind of build the island. And each time building the island, it's just kind of, you create new animals for yourself, and just kind of explore the possibilities and the atmosphere that you're in, and it has a lot to do with that too. So if I'm just playing at home versus, playing, for a restaurant gig versus playing in a quiet room, every one of those situations can change the outcome of that song. And so what I used to do, I'll tell you like how I came up with the name, the Josh Glenn Experiment. I used to go to open mics. Well, first of all, I would just write all of my lyrics down. For me, like writing a song, it's like, it takes a long time. Like I would have to write like little pieces of, bits of ideas on pieces of paper. And I would just I would write a lot of it on the back of receipts while I was at work or something, or just wherever I could write it down. And I would compile all of my favorite lines that I had written onto like one piece of paper. And so I knew I had like a lot of good material, and it didn't necessarily all make sense. It didn't, I feel like each little like piece of like lyrical, whatever I'm working on is just one little piece of a puzzle. And then I'm constantly kind of like sculpting that little piece of a puzzle and seeing if I can fit it with this other piece of a puzzle. Maybe I have to sculpt this other puzzle piece to like make it fit. But I would take all of these and put it on one piece of paper. And then I would go to an open mic in town, and I would just say, hey guys, like I'm working on this, like this is an experiment. I have this looping pedal, and just kind of briefly explain, like, I got this idea. I'm just going to play it and just see what happens. This is the Josh Glenn Experiment. And so that's how I would sign up for my open mics. And I did that for like a number of years, like probably 3 years. I ended up hosting an open mic, and then I was just doing that thing. And just like I would record myself most of the time. And then later on that night or the next day, I would go back and listen to it, see if there's anything I liked, see if anything that happened spontaneously in the moment that really worked. Because there's a lot of times like you're playing in front of a crowd, and there's this reciprocated energy that you don't get when you're playing at home, and you just feed off of that energy, and it takes the songs to new heights. So I would just kind of save that energy and play that at those open mics and record myself and try to grasp and try to say like, I really like this part, and try to get there again, and try to just try to repeat the best parts of those experiments. And so that's where I came up with the Josh Glenn Experiment. And I just kind of rolled with it. Kind of a lazy name if you think about it, but I feel like the mad folk scientist, I've always had that in the name in the back of my head. And I'm like, maybe I should have gone with that, mad folk scientist, but maybe I still will.
That'll be the name of your next album.
Yeah, maybe so. That'll just be me, like a cartoon version of me, like just frantically like moving knobs and stuff. So
there you go.
Yeah.
And speaking of lazy names, like Yosh and Yimmy, it's also very lazy. We just changed our J's to Y's.
Yeah,
but
that's right. Yeah, we were just like, because we met in 2016.
15.
Was it 2015? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just come back from tour.
You never remember our anniversary, Josh.
I never remember our anniversary. I know. Sometime it was in I can't even tell you what time of the year. It's probably summer, wasn't it?
It was most definitely summer. It was July.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what?
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you our anniversary present. Anyway, but I wanted to.
I'll make it up to you, Jimmy.
I thought I was going to hear the story of how y'all came together.
Yeah. Well, I do remember. Yeah, we'll dive in now. Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so so Jimmy and my fiance went. Well, they all didn't go to the same high school, right? Y'all were in the same friend circle.
Right.
And, but I knew, so I had asked Brianna, I was like, hey, don't you have a friend that you grew up with somebody in Corpus, like who's a musician? And I was trying to get some shows down there, and I was like, can you reach out to him, see if he's interested? Maybe I can open up for him. And so she did. And you were just coming back from a tour, I think, with David Martinez and Pope Cassidy. No, the different one.
This is completely different. Yeah, you are very much so. And no, this was the tour with Sheridan Lester. It was my
okay.
Melodies of the Aftermath tour.
Okay.
First time going to New York, all that stuff. But no, it was my, I guess, end of tour show, coming back home show.
That's right.
Dr. Rockets and Brianna asked me, and I'm like, yeah, he can open for us at this place. But whatever, just
whatever. It's a 15-minute set.
Helping a friend, helping a friend out, whatever, no big deal. And then he got up there and played, and Sheridan and I looked at each other and like, who the hell is this motherfucker?
Who the fuck is this?
Yeah.
No, I mean, we both had a mutual just love for each other's music. I loved your voice. I loved your sound. And I think from that moment on, we were just like, we need to play shows together. And so that's what we did. And we started, I think for a while, like it was just, we were just kind of opening up for each other and just kind of song swapping, so to speak, and just set swapping. Yeah. And then, you would hop on and sing some of my songs, or we were doing some cover songs and harmonizing. And you were working on the So Much Stuff, So Many Things album, which I got to go in and record some vocals and do some crazy little, digital delay guitar stuff on some of those songs. Yeah. And then shortly after that, I was working on my first major solo album, Orange Moon, and you came and sang some backup vocals on a few songs on there. I think Explosions and
I think only Explosions.
And,
at least
was it just Explosions?
I think so.
Okay, yeah. We had a big choir part at the end of Explosions, Orange Moon Part 3, and you were on there. Brant, actually, the producer, he sang a little bit on it. My mom came in and sang. That was a cool experience. Just ever since then, like we just were playing shows together, and it was, for a while, it was just this is Josh and Jimmy, and we were like, well, if we're gonna do this, maybe we just drop the J's and go with Y's, and that was as clever as we got. We were just like, well, that's it, Yosh and Yimmy, done deal, and we put out an EP.
Yeah, it was a small little tour that we had set up early on that we called the Yosh and Yimmy tour. I think it was where it came, and then it just stuck after that.
Yeah, some Texas shows.
Yeah, but yeah, we can dive more into Yosh and Yimmy stuff. But I wanted to get to during the festival, you did a looping workshop that was one of the favorite things of so many people that were in attendance. People pulled me aside many times and talked about attending the looping workshop and how it just inspired them and how you inspired them. And
that's cool.
So I just wanted to dive into that a little bit. And and unfortunately, because I was running around with my head chopped off, I missed most of it. So
I'm glad people showed up for it. And it was cool that Tony Scalzo was right before me.
Yeah, and it was a packed room. I mean, and people were engaged. It seemed like it was a wonderful thing. And I came in and towards the end, and it was. I think you had everyone write a song together, which is something we do on stage too.
Yeah, we do.
But it, having that experience, what did you take away from giving that workshop to people, and what do you think they took away from it as well?
I mean, I took away from it I prepared a little bit for it. So I had done something kind of like this before. I got invited to talk about my process at Trinity University here in San Antonio. And so I had some notes that I had already kind of like written out. And so I kind of refreshed my memory on what I had written down, all of my notes. And I wanted to kind of give a good idea of like some different looping pedals that people could go out and look at if they wanted to immediately, go out and buy a looping pedal. The very basic of basics is like the Ditto, it's a single, pedal looper. So I wanted to talk a little bit about like the technical part, but not too much. I really wanted to dive more into like the actual songwriting process. And so I wanted to kind of map out I picked one of my songs, a song called Like Clouds. It's going to be the first single on this next album that I'm putting out. I've been playing this song for a while, and it's just taken me forever to get the music, recorded and out. But I wanted to pick this song and actually kind of talk like almost narrate my way through a song as I'm looping it. And so like I I'm talking about, okay, you press here and you start with this, like, I think that song, it starts off with kind of a palm mute. Because not every song has to start with just a beat. It does help to have something rhythmic. And so sometimes instead of a beat, I'll start with just like a palm muted, arpeggiated chord. So this one is just real simple. It's just F to C, and it's just like a dun, 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 dun. And then so I kind of start that loop, and then I'm kind of talking my way through, like, okay, and then we're going to go to this, sweeping guitar sound, and then go to this, and then just, I forget, I don't know. I think I just wanted, I don't know. I just wanted to kind of give a demonstration of what that process sounds like, and just show people that it can be done. And it's a tap of a button. There's a little bit of, you got to play with the pedal a little bit and get your settings, where you want them. But once you have that, it's really just about like getting your rhythm right, like just for that first loop. And once you get that rhythm for that first loop, everything kind of like snaps to place, like with that. And I think I just had a lot of fun. I think I word vomited a bunch, and I missed out on a lot of stuff that I wanted to talk about. And I think I still have notes in here, but I'm really, I wasn't sure like how people were taking it. People were just like just staring at me and seemed very interested in it. But I'm glad to hear you say that people took away a lot from that. That makes me really happy to hear that.
No,
I don't know
sure.
if I answered your question, but
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Jules.
It's like, I wonder if you would agree with this, man. Just like, when I start building stuff with loops, or I start integrating the looper process into something I've already written, it's kind of like you have to remember not just like chords, melody, and lyrics, but it's almost like the song attains this like additional dimension. Like now the song is like, I have to remember how I start this loop, at what point I start, and
mm-hmm.
it's like now the song has like depth of what I need to remember. That's past. It's procedural. It's like this pedal needs to be on this setting before I start this song, sort of thing. And I know it's all like particular to the looper and stuff. But would you say that are you writing with the looper mainly these days, or are you taking stuff that you write to the looper?
Yeah, the latter.
The latter. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll write stuff down, like a line that I really like, or just an idea. I mean, it'll be like a musical line or something, and I will take those. I'll create something, with the looper. I don't have too many like presets on the looper. I kind of keep it like pretty acoustic. Like there's no really added effects that like I have to preset, because I use the digital delay, the green machine, for all of my digital stuff. So there's nothing on the actual looper. So I use the Boomerang Phrase 3 looper, which happens to it doesn't even have any built-in. There are some built-in effects. You can do like a reverse thing on it, but I don't need that because I have the green machine that has all of my reverse stuff on there. But
so you're making use of these like functions on the loopers that like I feel like people who loop typically look at these functions and are like, what do you do with something that doubles the tempo of your loop? Or what do you do with something that like cuts it in half, And I mean, I feel like the only person I've seen maybe use that stuff has been like Howie Day back in the day. With some of the looping that he would do. He was using 2 of those green line 6 pedals like you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And remarkably, he would keep things in time, which I see you tapping your feet, and you have this internal clock that I'm very envious of, I will say.
I was a pencil tapper when I was a kid. I was like,
oh, that's the secret, pencil tapping. Huh?
Yeah, at elementary school, all the way through grade school, I was like using those erasers on the back of. I was like drumming on the desks.
Yeah.
And to get.
Do you play drums as well?
What's that?
Do you play drums as well?
No, I don't. I play like percussion, like I'll the djembe or something like that. But I don't play traditional drums. I can't coordinate my foot with my hands. It's all just I don't know. I've gotten that. I don't know what you call it, but it's just, palm muting and doing these like little like these little things. And the Green Machine, the DL4 has. I guess it's a different thing to like the waddly woos. What is it?
Right.
There's waddly woos, widdly wows, and digga 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 digga. But no, like the tempo thing. There's like a tap tempo on the DL4, and I use that all the time. So when I'm doing those like crazy delays, like everything syncs up. Like obviously the very first loop you set, it has to be like spot on. So like what I'll do is I'll just do like a real short loop, something like a boom, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, boom, and then set that loop that's just real quick on the first track.
Yeah.
And that being its own track, that means that beat is going to stay high up in the mix. And then set the new track. And then that's when I start, either adding like a little, the little tick, 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 or, like a palm mute, like chord or a bass line, and just kind of build it up slowly from there. But you have to set like the decay to a certain, you don't want it to completely be all the way loud, like to where, I don't know if you know what I mean, like where everything you're looping is just completely stacking, and every time it stacks, it's louder and louder and louder. You can't have that. So you have to have the decay down a little bit so that every time you loop something, that last loop, it gets kind of
a little bit quieter,
buried
right?
into the mix. Yeah. And so, so because of that, I might have to revisit a certain riff. Like maybe I start with the bass line, and then I go into some other riffs, and then do some like widdly wahs and some tick, 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 and then and kind of build it up, and then maybe I have to bring that bass line back in because it got buried a little bit. But I don't know. For the longest time, like I feel like when I first started getting into looping, I felt like I was an avant-garde act, and I was like, it took me like 3 to 4 minutes to get to a point where I was like sing something. You need to sing something. You can't just be playing this stuff and just like, people are, you're just shoegazing at a certain point. I think what really helped me, I played in this little 3-piece psychedelic, like folk, avant-garde, like band called National Parks. We spelled it NAT''L. There's another National Parks out there, not to be confused with them. They're amazing, by the way. They're a really cool folk group. But we were called National Parks. And but this guy that played with me, Eric Bell, he played electric guitar. He was new. He'd only just played for like 2 years, but like he saw me at a show, and he was like adamant about like, I got to play with this guy. And so we started playing together, but he taught me a lot of tricks, just about like we would be playing shows together, and he'd be like, you got to build the song up faster, like get to the song first, like you got to start singing, and just kind of like directing me, like, and it kind of was a little bit annoying, but at the same time, I realized now that I learned a lot from him. Like he would teach me, like we would do these like little practice sessions where it was like, all right, let's just see what we can do with just one string. Like just see what you can do on the G string, like only play the G string. And so I'm like, all right, like, and so I'm just like building up like a thing, like when I'm only playing the G string. And so like, it's just disciplining yourself, like in certain ways, like just to see what would happen. And like, I don't know, I learned a lot, like playing with him, but I learned most importantly, like how to get to the song part quicker. So now when I'm playing, like, it's all about like get a beat going, get like a riff going, get like one little, digital delay thing, get like a weird guitar sound in there, and then start sing the first verse, like get to the verse, like within a minute, if you can. And so that's what I would continue challenging myself on, with the songs that ended up on Orange Moon. Some of those early takes, like when I was in the studio and we were recording, like there's a song on there called Outer Universe. I think the first time we recorded that song, he was like, just play it how you would play it live. So I started playing it, and he left the room and like came back, and I was still playing it. That thing was like 18 minutes long, like the first time I played it. And we did a few takes, I think the shortest version that I played was like 15 minutes, and we whittled it down to about 8.5 minutes. I think the album version, it's like somewhere around eight minutes and some, but that's the longest song I've written. But yeah, it's like, it's a challenge to get to the song part, like, because people don't want to, I mean, it's interesting. Yeah. Like hearing, just the instrumental parts and stuff, but you have to it has to progress. It has to be interesting. You have to like keep things moving, not just play the same things over and over again. Like you got to build that island up. And so that was the challenge for me for a long time. And I feel like I've, kind of gotten there, but now I'm kind of starting to scratch now. Like I'm working on this new album. I was really fortunate, and I got a grant from the city of San Antonio last year. And so I've been working on new music. I've been reading a bunch about the history of San Antonio. My idea for this new album is creating music based on the history of San Antonio and like the origins of the land and what it might have been like to live here alongside like the Paiaya Nation, like a very peaceful nation. Arguably the reason why the San Antonio missions were successful. They were stuck between a rock and a hard place. They had the Spanish coming up from the south, and they had the Comanches and Apaches coming from the north, and they had nowhere else to go. And but all of that, aside, before the Spanish were even here, I wanted to explore what it might have been like to live, in these areas around San Pedro Springs, and how they saw the land. And from what I read, they saw the San Pedro Springs, this underwater source of water, as an extension of the cosmos. And I just thought that was fascinating. And just man, what it would have been like to just live off the land and just not just be able to go anywhere, and not have commercialism or capitalism, and just literally living under the stars. And so that's what all of these songs are kind of about, that I'm working on right now. I debuted all the songs at a show at this place here in town called Echo Bridge. It's this really cool venue under a bridge. It's an unconventional venue. You just walk down there, and there's the audience side is on one side of the river, and then I'm performing on the other side of the river. And we had this beautiful echo that just, Jimmy, you've been there. We went down and we tried to record some stuff with Yosh Yimmy. I still want to do that. Yeah. I'm going to talk to him. We'll make it happen. But yeah, I debuted the songs, and now I'm going into the studio. I've already had a session with Brant Sankey at Studio E here in San Antonio. And we got some other sessions booked. I got another one in July, and then in August. So we're just going to try to get as much knocked out as we can, hopefully looking at a spring 2025 release. Nice. So, but yeah.
But you mentioned extension of the cosmos, and I feel like that a lot of your lyrics are extensions of the cosmos. The way you dive into nature and science and the cosmos. I was literally going to use that word before you mentioned it. I wanted to, and then also you're just really good at free flowing, and I think that's where a lot of your lyrics come from. Just singing along to a loop that you have or something, and you get not stuck, but plugged into a certain idea. Yeah, it seems. You just explain the process of where your lyrics come from.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it, it just comes from the heart. You guys have talked before, you got to speak your truth. And I feel like a lot of my truth is just I feel like a lot of my lyrics stem from the idea that we are all one, that we're all on this planet. We're all human beings, and we've all had to start from somewhere. And I feel like we're all here together, and just nature has so much to offer, inspiration wise, and just, wildlife. I love all things nature. I'm a huge camper. We go out to Big Bend every year. So I get a ton of inspiration from just being outside, hiking with my brother in the Swiss Alps. That's a whole story about Dr. Pepper and all this other stuff.
Yeah, it's almost dying in the Swiss Alps.
Almost dying in the Swiss Alps, and a Dr. Pepper that saved my life. It's based on Yosh Yimmy song called Proof. Dr. Pepper, if you're listening, we will write a new verse just for you. But my inspiration, it's just, it's nature. And I don't know, it just, something happens like whenever I make up a song on the spot, like we'll ask audience members like, hey, give me an idea for a song. And just, I don't know. Sometimes they work really well. Sometimes they don't. But when they do, they really work well. I remember one time we played when Jimmy and I were on tour. I forget where it was, but somebody shouted out magic mushroom. I don't know if they said magic mushroom, but they said mushroom. And someone was like,
they did say
gerbil,
magic mushroom.
Gerbil. And then somebody else said hamster, I think. And then somewhere along the song, like this like gerbil like is like wandering through the forest, and it finds like a magic mushroom, and it eats the magic mushroom, and then it thinks it's a hamster. And I think I remember that part of the song, and I wish that we had recorded it, because it was like one of the best made up songs we ever did for like 7 people.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Was that in North Dakota? I can't remember.
No, this was like in what was the town that like smelled really bad? It smelled like meat processing or something. I think no, it wasn't that place.
Anyway,
it's random thing. Sorry, I'm off on a tangent. I told you that was going to happen.
Yeah, well, let's not name that town anyway.
Let's not throw any towns under the bus.
We want to get booked again.
Yeah, that's right. But the point is, like, it's fun making up songs, and I am inspired by nature and just the idea that we're all one. There's just a lot that you can pull from that, and sometimes like I'll just stream of conscious, right? Like I might be playing something in the moment and just sing whatever comes to mind. And it might just be gobbledygook. It may not make any sense. Like the words may not line up. But that's the cool thing about music, is that you don't have to make a cohesive sentence. It can just be anything. There's a band out of Iceland called Sigur, and they literally have a made up language in their music. Like they sing, it's Icelandic, but it's a made up language. Even people in Iceland they admit like it's just, they're just using their voice to make sounds.
There's anyone out there who will make a metal band that sings in Klingon? That might be a cool
there's a metal band who has an African gray parrot as a front man.
You know what? I just saw that today, man.
You heard about that?
Incredible. I got to listen to that stuff.
Yeah, it's hardcore, man. It is hardcore. Yeah.
That Sigur band, man, they I think they split up after a while and some members formed a band called Mogwai, if I'm not.
Oh, is that right? I like Mogwai. I didn't know if there was any.
I think there's a link between Mogwai and Sigur. I believe there is.
There definitely is a link musically. Like they're both instrumental. Progressive rock. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love Mogwai.
Yeah.
Sigur is super pretty though.
Yeah. That Svenga Englar song they had was just, it was just too beautiful. Way too beautiful.
Yeah.
But getting back to your lyrics, it's just a general, your skill of improvising, not just musically, but lyrically. Where did you think you picked that up?
Where I picked up my lyrics?
No, not the lyrics themselves, but the skill of improvising lyrically, like I'd say free flowing, but something like that. Yeah.
I sang a lot along to songs. So when I was growing up, my mom listened to a lot of, her favorite band growing up, or when we were growing up, was Indigo Girls. I don't know what that means, but
all right.
She also listened to a lot of like plays. So like we listened to a lot of like Les Mis, Cats, Phantom of the Opera. And I think a lot of the times I didn't know what they were singing. And so like, I was just like singing whatever I thought it sounded like. And I was like, I don't know what I'm singing. I was just like, it sounds good. And so I'm just like, dun, 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 dun. And I don't know what I'm singing. It's just like, I just want to sing along. And I think like you too, like I like trying to find the harmonies in songs. Like as a kid, I would always try to like sing the harmonies. I feel like you're way better at that though. But I think just singing along in the car, and then, first picking up a guitar at the age of 15. I wish I had started earlier, but
me too.
I was 14.
Yeah, a little earlier.
Like less than a year probably.
But I was terrible. You wrote good songs like when you were 14 though. Like
that's debatable.
I mean, I wrote terrible songs. I was in a pop punk band, and
I was in a pop rock band. So
I wrote a song called Stop and Go, and it was about a girl that was after one of my best friends that he was not interested in her, but he would always like use her for like gas money or like buying stuff. It was a terrible song. It was so bad. And word got back to her, and she I don't know. She liked the song actually. She was mad at me for a while, but then like she was like, "Oh, that's really catchy." But it was just like, I don't know, just stupid teen angst songs with no substance.
Yeah, I've got one of those songs exactly. My cousin was dating this girl that no one, she just annoyed everybody, and wrote this song called "All the Same," and we played it for years around her, and it wasn't until like 3 or 4 years later that it finally got back to her that the song was about her. And by that point, she was too invested in the song because it was like, I think, her favorite song.
She loved it. So some part of her was probably like, "Oh, it's about me." Oh, but not in the way I hoped. Oh no. Yeah, we had a song. I wrote a song called like "Girls on Our Mind," which was so lame. I can't even believe I just said that out loud. But yeah. It took me a while, I think, to start like writing stuff that like I felt like was decent. And I think I'd honestly like, I mean, I played in like a little acoustic trio. I can't even remember any of the songs that we wrote, but I felt like they were way better than the punk songs that I wrote when I was 18. But I feel like the better stuff like happened like once I started getting into looping, and I don't know, it just takes me a long time to like write a song. And so like I'm really a perfectionist, and like if it's not like, I say that I'm a perfectionist, but then like I'm willing to like have a half written song and then go out and play it in front of people live. I think I like performing more than I like finishing a song. So like I think I just enjoy being in front of people and feeling that energy from a crowd. And even if a song's like half finished, I'd rather just go and perform it and get feedback from people, or just see like where the song goes on its own, like using that energy. Because sometimes it helps write the song when I do that. And so I think that's why I kind of like just gravitate to writing that way. And I might have a song that has a certain structure for like a little while, but then like I might play a show and it have really good energy, and then it takes it to another height. And then I'm like, oh, that's how I want to play the song now. And so a lot of the songs that ended up on Orange Moon, I lived with those songs, and like those songs morphed over the course of probably 3 to 4 years before I actually got in the studio. And even when I got in the studio, they still weren't completely like structured. I just went in there and I played each song probably 4 or 5 different versions, and we picked all the best parts of it and we kind of like pieced it together. And what he did was like he kind of created a grid based on the tempo that I was playing it at. And so we had the tempo, and then what we would do is we would take the parts that we liked. I would listen back to the takes, and then we would go one at a time and I would re-record those parts. And he basically built the song up like with me, and like we would just go one at a time. And so instead of just going in there, if I was super pro, like I would just go in and just play it and be done with it. But no, we went in like super produced and actually took it one little puzzle piece at a time. And I think that's why Orange Moon kind of came together the way it did. I'm really happy with it. And I think this next album is just going to be a step above that. Because I'm just really excited about these new songs. I think they're going to be really cool. So,
yeah. And there's got to be a difference between what you write with for Josh Glenn Experiments and how we write or what we do with Yosh and Yimmy. Because we utilize the loop pedal to some extent. It's not throughout. It's on a couple songs here and there.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, yeah.
But I think Yosh Yimmy writes more classically rooted songs rather than the esoteric songs that the mad folk scientist you are, right?
That gets a little, the mad folk stuff is like super, I would throw in like psychedelic into that. Like what Yosh Yimmy does is more focused on, I think, like you said, traditional, like guitars, like harmonizing melodically and vocal harmony. And actually the songs have like kind of a verse, structure a little bit more. I feel like you're more equipped at knowing like chord changes and like knowing like where to, like, instead of just doing like a simple, C, G, A minor, F or something, like, how to like really add extra chords and stuff. And that's something I kind of have never, I kind of will fumble blindly and find something and be like, oh, this is really cool. But I feel like you have a more understanding of like that structure and can kind of come up with these like really cool chord progressions.
I just like complicating things.
Jimmy will write a whole song with like half diminished chords, just the whole thing,
Yeah, and you'll show it to me, and I'll be like, "That's really cool. I like that." And like you might have some lyrics for it, and like then I might throw some ideas out there. Like we'll sit down and then we actually have writing sessions, and I feel like that's not the way I write. When I write solo stuff, it just happens in little pockets. Like I might just write a little line and then be done with it. I'll let it sit there for like a month before I revisit it. But when Jimmy and I get together, we'll actually sit down. The first two songs we wrote were, the first one was called Whisper. And we were like, let's write a song about the Corpus Christi breeze. Because I grew up going to Corpus for holidays. My grandparents lived there for a long time while I was a kid growing up. And so Corpus was a second home to me. And so I was like, let's write a song about the Corpus Christi breeze. We called it Whisper. And we just sat down and like we wrote each verse like based on like the senses, like, sight, feel, like taste. Like I taste the salt in the air. I forget the words. We haven't played that in a while. I think I'm always afraid that we're going to forget the words.
We equated the salt in the air to the Pringle potato chips.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
I'm sorry, potato crisps.
Potato crisps. Yeah. But yeah. And then the second song we wrote was Shadows on the Wall, based on the old allegory of Plato's Cave, which we always joke that, we'll give you our
Cliff Notes
version, our Cliff Note version of Plato's Cave. It'll get you a D- in your English class. But like we just picked, I like that idea of like just picking a theme and then just writing around that, kind of giving yourself guidelines. And I feel like that kind of works for us. We wrote recently that song Drink, which we wrote up in Dallas. I really love how that came out. But yeah, it's just, I feel like it's a more disciplined version of like writing when we write together. But our songs, just like any other songs, like they develop, like they'll have like an initial sound, and then we kind of will work through it. And the more we play it, the more refined it gets. And then by the time, we're playing it really well and we feel really comfortable, then I feel like that's when we take it into the studio and try to get it down, which I really want to do as well. We have a collection of songs.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to whenever we get in the studio to record these. I mean, because I think the goal for this next one is to hopefully have all the songs co-written by each other. So it's not like, because there are projects in the past, I brought a handful of songs that I wrote on my own, and same with you.
I had some old songs.
Yeah. Then we wrote a couple songs together, and that's what created those projects. But with this one, I think it would be really cool if like every single song that we co-wrote together. Yeah,
we got some good ones. Floyd's song, that travel song too. That's you can tell that's a Josh inspired chords, because it's like, I think it's only 3 chords, but it has like, it's a really cool sounding song. I really like that. You know what I'm talking about? The travel song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I call it monologue or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Or let be
let be what will be. Yeah.
But yeah, no, and the reason I asked this question is because for me, I don't think it's changed that much, except I usually write in total isolation. So having a co-writer is, I guess, broadening the field for me. But in general, my writing process doesn't really change that much. But I could see that it possibly does for you when like working on Yosh Yimmy stuff than it's two separate things.
Yeah, I like to like there's a lot of times when we're writing sometimes, and you might like write something down, and I want to marinate on like a lyric. Like you might be like kind of set on a lyric, and I might be like, well, I don't know, like I think we might be able to come up with a better one than that. Like let's like marinate on it, and but like we'll just keep it there for a placeholder, and then go back and like I feel like I overanalyze. Like I want it to sound like I want it to have a certain cadence, like when it's like being sung, and sometimes like in my head, like I hear it a certain way. And sometimes you might hear it a different way, which is totally fine. That happens like when you're co-writing. But I feel like we do pretty good. Like we'll try each other's versions of it. Let's try your version to see how it sounds. And then we'll try the other version, and we kind of just go back and forth like that. And I feel like that works really well for us. So, and yeah, I think everything that we've done in the studio, Americana Summer like came together. I really love that EP like a lot. And I think the last song on that album, The World is Sound Asleep, is a song that it was an old song of mine, but I just kind of lost touch with that song. And I think playing it with you is like taking it to so much greater heights. I love that song so much more now with you on it. And it just totally transformed it. Like your harmony and like the guitar that you added onto it. And then in the album version or on the EP, like we really built up that last part. Like it just has this, like it's really quiet, and then it just builds and builds and builds. And it never had that before when I used to play it. And so I remember just falling in love with that song all over again. So yeah, I don't know where, yeah, but yeah.
Got anything, Jules, before I
man. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Josh, and it'll take a little while to get from point A to point B, which is asking you the question. But like, I read somewhere about like kind of the career of a hunter follows a path where like when they're a young hunter, they have to get the animal, they have to get the kill, whatever. They get a little older, a little more mature, and now like it's enough to know that they could, so they have to go and see the animal. And then at a certain point, they're like, it's just that it's enough that I'm out in nature. And then it becomes like, oh, now we have to bring the youth into the whole picture, right? And so like this whole life cycle of a hunter, I feel like there's kind of a life cycle of a looper in a way, because like when I first started looping, I was putting my pedal board on flyers, I was like, come see the pedal board thing, and after a little while I got to where I was like, I want to be more subtle and strategic with this stuff, and I brought up Howie Day earlier because part of it was like, there is a struggle that you mentioned early on in this conversation about, getting to the song part faster. And part of that is like not putting the gear up front, not making it a looper show, but it is still a musician that just happens to loop and will do so at times that will like be at maximum sort of, when you deploy these moments, it will be of maximum impact, I suppose, like sort of maximize that. And then maybe you end up, I don't know, I found myself like having looped for a number of years now. I found myself looking at players that, and really admiring those guys that can take a lead and not have any chords underneath it and can just like do it without a loop somehow. Or those guys that are really slick with loopers that like loop as they're singing, and then they activate the loop and go into their lead kind of seamlessly. So what is all this to say? What is like your relationship with looping look like now? Now that you've done it for a while, you're creating records with it, right? You use it as part of the writing process. There's all these different ways you use it, right? So like, where do you see your relationship with looping going? You know, maybe post this record, post like the, like how do you feel that your feelings will evolve about it, I suppose?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question. Yeah, like I said, like, I mean, I touched a little bit on how it used to be just all avant-garde, and it was just, you know, just all about like, you know, showing that I can loop and like, and just all this stuff. But yeah, like it gets to the point like where you want to get to the song faster. I think where I'm going with looping now, I've actually, because I have been kind of like, okay, I'm doing the same things. Like I've really wanted to get to the point where I could start looping my vocals into into the tracks. And so I got together with this friend of mine, Ryan Waters here in town. He's like, he does sound at a couple bars here, but I was like, hey, let me pick your brain. I was like, how can I get more stuff going through my looping pedal? Because right now all I can loop is my guitar, and I want to be able to loop my vocals. I want to be able to loop piano. I want to be able to do the thing that like I've seen other people do, and to be able to loop it all and try to like write, so I can progress myself more as a musician. I can do more. I have more tools at my disposal. And so he showed me how to essentially do that. There's one problem though. So the idea that he told me was basically with my rig, I plug into like a tuner, which goes into a bass, a Pog pedal, and then that Pog goes into the digital delay pedal, which goes into the looper. Well, we go out now. Instead of, we bypass the looper, we just go out, we plug into the tuner, we plug in, it goes through everything, the whole rig up to the digital delay, and then out of the delay into a mixer. And then I plug other stuff into the mixer, the vocal mic, the piano, and then I go out of the mixer into the looping pedal, and then directly out of the looping pedal into the speakers. And so that is how I've been experimenting at home with writing for this new project, where I can essentially do that. I can loop guitar, I can loop vocals, I can loop piano. The problem is I can't simultaneously loop a guitar line and sing a verse without my vocals being looped in it. I can't single out one or the other. I have to, I think I would need to get like a digital mixer, and it gets really complicated there, but I know it's possible. That's kind of where I'm aiming my goals right now. I want to get to a point where I can have multiple mics. I can have a mic that's just going to be allow me to loop stuff, and I can have a separate mic where I can just sing a verse while I might be simultaneously playing a bass line or another guitar line, and not have to worry about my vocals also getting looped in. So I don't know, I just got like super technical there, but that's kind of like where I'm going. I'm trying to dive a little bit deeper into the technical side, which is a lot for me because I'm not a very technical person. I need somebody to kind of show me how to do stuff like that. And so, but having this buddy of mine like has been really helpful. I've been kind of emailing back and forth, figuring out like what I need to get to make that happen. And so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm right in the middle of all of that right now. And so, but with these songs, like I've actually been writing them in such a way where I don't have to sing. So I might be playing a bass line or a guitar riff and I'm looping it, but I want to do something with my voice. But instead of singing a lyric, I might just use my voice to do like kind of a hum or something, or like da 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 da. And then so it's adding something to the song in addition to the guitar playing without, it being a lyric that's going to get in the way on the next loop, if that makes any sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was a lot. I'm sorry.
No, man. Like, I know that not all the listeners and audience is like has an intense interest in hearing the pedal chain, the precise pedal chain stuff. But since we're there for a minute, I just like, if for listeners who are interested in sort of looping as an overall genre and investigating, because it is kind of its own genre and thing. And it's a weird sort of like, it's not really designated as such, but if you start to loop, you quickly find that there are other looper artists out there. And, you know, a lot of these people, like, you can reach out to them. Like when I first started looping, there's a guy, I think he's based in Singapore, but his name is Randolph Areola. And Randolph has millions of views in his videos. He was one of the first kind of looper guys that I found. And I mean, he has like a string of pedals set up, usually with that big red and black Roland or Boss 3-channel looper thing. You know, I forget what it's called, the 505 or something. There's a, you know, and I've seen like various pedal boards of these guys. I mean, if you go, like I've mentioned Howie Day a couple times, because that was like, I felt like he was the closest to what I wanted to accomplish, with his like acoustic instruments and pedals with some harmonies going on, and really beautiful. The word braided was used in the quote that you opened up with, and I was a fan of the using that word in that context. I tend to use the word quilted, like we quilt these moments together, you know. But yeah, so Randolph Areola is a technician of looping too. You have to have some technical savvy with the stuff you're talking about, using like a small mixer on your pedal board. And I've seen loopers do that, where they have a physical mixer on their board. And so, like, you know, Randolph would have like a whole string of pedals doing that. You know, there's also guys that are doing this in more of a build a beat and like entertain like a DJ might, but from scratch using beats. There's a guy named Mark Ribier.
That guy's
Loop Daddy. He's extremely talented.
He's sick. He's so cool,
entertaining, man.
Yeah.
And he's using a tabletop RC505, which is like a 5-channel looper with like 5 rubber buttons that's meant for tabletop operation. But I've seen guys repurpose that as a floor pedal on a board, because those start and stop and record buttons are large and rubber. They can tap those, but it's not really meant for that. But there's constantly things like, you know, there's constantly like TC Helicon got in the looper game with their Voice Live series, you know. Electro Harmonics has their own stuff. Pigtronics or something there, you know, whatever they're called, man. There's a thing. There's another one.
There are a bunch of them out there. Yeah.
There's a bunch of different looper pedals. And you know, the thing is, though, is that everyone who's listening to this, there's probably a bunch of our audience who's tried loop pedals, and they're like, yeah, I can't ever get the loop right. You know, and that's part of it too. You have to find a looper that works with you. And so like you and I have had the conversation in the past when we've hung out in person, where I've told you that I kind of cheat at looping, because I know that the Voice Live has a smart quantized function built into it. And I use that, and my loops are always on point because it's artificially assisted, and it just seems like I have it all together doing this stuff, but it's really inside the pedal. So you have to find a looper that works for you to get into this stuff. And then you know, sometimes, and the reason why I asked you how you felt about all this stuff too, man, is because, you know, some of us go the path of like what Randolph has done now, where he's like giving TED Talks on looping, and he's up there with the ugliest guitar you've ever seen in your life. This electric no headstock thing that has a big like tremolo stick sticking out of it, and like an iPhone he's repurposed with the cable that comes out of it for some sort of touch sensory effects thing. So looping you can quickly start to write music through looping, that now it's like you are in that domain, you know? Yeah.
I think it's important. I think it's important to not, I don't think looping is a genre, so to speak. I think it's a tool to be used to kind of, any genre can be, you know, used with looping. There's a guy here in San Antonio who does looping with a saxophone. His name's Noah Peterson, and really, really cool stuff that he does. But he hosts Loop Fest here in San Antonio, and they do it in Mexico City and in some other places. But I've done it a few times, and I was just amazed to see how many different styles of looping there are. There's a guy out of Las Vegas, I forget his name, but all his whole thing is, I think he uses the Boss 505. It's like the touch pad, but all of this stuff is vocal based, and he has all these different effects that he uses on his voice. And he'll start with just like this, like really low tone, like in a rhythmic pattern. And then he just builds it up and he creates all the beats with his mouth. And it's just like, just mind blowing, like how much stuff you can get down, like with just a vocal mic. And then there's another guy who does like this, what is that little, you blow into it and it's like a piano like thing.
Oh, the melodica thing.
Melodica. Yeah. And that's his thing. He like loops with that and his voice. And then there's other, a lot of guitarists, of course. But every single person is so different, so many different genres. And there's so many different ways you can use the looping pedal. It's just unreal. Like, and I hope that any musician out there listening to this will just try it. Just try to get a pedal, because like it'll get you out of your comfort zone a little bit. Like, and it might be, even if you just like get it and just to play with it, like don't take it out live if you don't want to. Just like, spend time with it in your room and just like play, some progressions, and then at least, if nothing else, like, learn how to solo or play in a certain key, especially if you're learning how to play the guitar. But there's so many different ways you can utilize it, and you can plug anything into a looping pedal and just have fun with it. That's what I would tell everybody.
So I have to mention, because if I don't mention it, well, I'll be really remiss here. There is a similar Loop Fest thing that happens in Providence, Rhode Island.
I've heard you talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, man. There's a wonderful lady out there named Lori Ammett, and she found some videos I did looping, and she invited me to their festival in 2017. And that is when Josh, when you started to talk about the sort of how every looper is kind of their own, it's so different from everything you've seen from every other looper. That was, I went there, and the whole thing was like an island of misfit loopers. It was like guys that I got there, and the whole inside of the place they were performing at was pitch black dark, because they were looping like sledgehammers hitting iron pipes, and and like the sparks that would illuminate the whole room, and or like a skill saw and like a sort of thing on a piece of metal. Yeah, it was wild. And notably, like there was a lady there named Cindy Soprano. I remember Cindy Saw, SAW, and then soprano, right? And she started by looping a saw with a violin bow. The saw had a 1/4-inch pickup on it. And then she moved on to looping a hurdy-gurdy. And then from there she moved on to picking up an accordion and playing it. And all the while she's just in performance wearing a kimono, right? And so she's just swaying while she's doing this stuff. And yeah, so looper festivals, if you can find a looper festival, it will show you that. It will show you that in the most flattering way I could say this, that like you can loop, you listener, you can loop. And there are other people that loop, and it's a community. When it comes together, it's really beautiful, because like as a looper, you kind of feel a little isolated in your element, as it's particular to your particular setup and mindset and approach. And so when you can encounter others that are also, and Randolph talked about the sort of looper community, and in his TED talk, he was like a person that, just said he had finally found his community. And I just thought that was really beautiful. And you can, buy a looper.
Awesome. Yeah. There's so like you're saying, like the sledgehammer, all these different ways that you can, play your instrument. Like it just made me think of, like I used to do this thing with the guitar. Like when I was looping stuff, I would create like a beat. And then when I was playing, I would take a Sharpie marker and I would just use it and like kind of like, put the shape of a chord in and just like bounce the Sharpie marker off of the strings to kind of get this like loud, like, like, or what else was I going to say? Like the EBow, like those are really cool to use, like too. Although I think those are better like on electric guitars, but I've been able to use those on the acoustic. And then there's a thing called the Picasso. Have you heard of that? It's literally like a little mini, bow, and you have rosin that goes with it, and you rosin it up, and you can actually play up to 2 strings at a time, like like as if it was like a cello or a violin.
Yeah.
And so I have that. I experimented with it for a little bit. I need to bring it back out. The only problem with when you do that is if you later go back and try to like do some kind of arpeggio, like finger picking, the resin kind of gets stuck a little bit. But I might have to just reserve like a separate guitar, like just for the Picasso.
Well, like looping kind of restores a sort of childlike approach to your instrument in a way where, like, you know, like the artist Khaki King sells these small brass arches that you place under the 12th fret of your guitar, and it arches your strings up, and then you can play both sides of your guitar strings as they go over this arch with your fingers, and it'll open up. Yeah, it'll open up all these interesting, cool sounds. And so, like, when you start playing with loopers and you realize that you can quickly create kind of rhythmic things, it renews like your interest and your spark in these items that like seem like, you know, worthless accessories or stuff, you know, like you know, it'll make you buy a spider capo or something, you know, it'll like, you know, so
try yelling into the sound hole of the guitar if you're looping anything. I do that sometimes, like, you'd be in the middle of a song or something, and it's just like, just take it and just like shout stuff into the sound hole of the guitar, like on beat. And you get this like really, sometimes I'll play it at bars and it doesn't come through quite well, but there's other times like I'll actually like shout in it and it actually comes out really, really well. You can kind of get this like kind of muffled background vocal, like by shouting into the guitar.
In fact, I think I saw you do that the very first time that you played, or that I saw you play anyway, at Dr. Rockets.
Yeah, it's a cool little novelty. People are like, what the fuck is he doing? Like making out with his guitar.
It's the modern equivalent of putting a guitar behind your back and playing.
Exactly. I'm not gonna light my acoustic guitar on fire or anything, but I might, shout into it.
Scream into it. Yeah.
Scream into it. Yeah.
Are you using any dirt pedals with your acoustic guitar, man?
Like any like
heavy distortions, anything like that?
No, not so much. Yeah, I think it would just, I don't know. I think it'd just be too much. I never.
Yeah, no, it's hard to find a pedal that plays nicely with that stuff. I
do have a volume pedal. I have a volume pedal that will it'll boost my signal a little bit. I haven't really used it much, but I might start using it because like there's sometimes like where I'll get a loop like really built up and there's a lot of stuff going on. I might have like 10 different loops going, but then I really want this one line to like really stand on top of everything. And I've thought recently about like, maybe I should plug that into my chain. Like, and I think the pedal, it's called Arrow. It's called Arrow. I think it's, I can't remember which brand it is, but yeah, it basically just boosts like the signal a little bit. So it stands on top of everything.
Cool.
But yeah, that's probably the most that I would do. I haven't really messed with much like distortion stuff. I have just, plugged into, I got an old crate amp, which is, got a bunch of digital effects on it. And I've just like plugged it in and like picked like the rowdiest distortion on there just to see what it sounds like. And it's loud. It's very loud, but I had nothing I brought out and played with live or anything like that.
This is
pretty acoustic.
Related to looping so much, but as to like you said, you came from like a pop punk, background. That's what you started with. I started with pop rock, but mostly is an alternative band, right? Do you find yourself aching to write that kind of music again, or try anything?
No, not really. I mean, maybe
once you found the acoustic, you kind of just I
love I do kind of, I guess a little bit. Like it would be kind of cool to like pick up an electric guitar and play some just like kind of just like loud stuff. Maybe that would be kind of fun. But yeah, I think I've just fallen in love with the acoustic guitar. I love just the arpeggiated sound. I've ever since. The only like real training I've had, like I took classical guitar class in my freshman year of high school. And I think I learned a whole lot just from that semester. And then after that, I kind of put the guitar down for a little bit, and I was like focused more on like drawing. I was just like got really into drawing stuff, and so like I was just drawing a bunch, and I would still write. I don't know, like you, I would like write short stories and stuff, and then I think it took like 3 years before I got back into playing music. I met some people who played drums, and another guy played bass, and I was like, oh, I got a guitar, let's start a band, and that's where the punk band came from. But yeah, no, I mean, I have an electric guitar hanging on the wall, and I have an amp, so.
I know we've toyed with the idea of like, let's record a like folk alternative album or something.
We should jam. We should just jam on it. Yeah.
Thrash folk.
Yeah.
I haven't been wanting to do that for a long time.
That'd be cool.
But also before I completely forget to even bring this up, I invited Jules to jam with us at the Bay Jammin' concert series here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Can you play some slide guitar for us, or what?
Play some dobro.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. We'll get
the Yosh Yimmy and Jules band back together.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that was fun the other few weeks ago, playing at the Joe's Lighthouse. Joe's Lighthouse.
At the Tabernacle. Yeah, man.
The Tabernacle, yeah. Joe's Lighthouse is such a cooler name. I was like, oh, this is a cool venue. What is it? Oh, it's okay. Joe's Crab Shack.
I think it's straight up Joe's Crab Shack. They just
Joe's Crab Shack, yeah.
No, it's Joe's Crab Shack, yeah.
Yeah. No, that was fun though. Yeah, our last set, Jules, it's like, mind if I sit in? I was like, hell yeah, man, go get it. Yeah. That was fun.
That's cool. I showed up without a tuner. I was like, all right, boys, we're all plugging in the same thing here. And
let me unplug this, you plug in, I'll plug back in. Yeah.
Yep.
That was fun, man. That'll be fun.
Yeah. I mean, if you notice, there's like millions of chords everywhere, and 99% of them are heading towards Josh, and then there's like one chord in my side of the.
It takes Jimmy like 2 minutes to set up. It takes me like 10 minutes. If I'm moving quick.
At least, yeah.
At least 10 minutes, yeah.
And then same, I break down. I'm like, all right, I'll be over here. Let me know when you're ready for me to help you, like with the speakers and everything.
Wind up all these 15 chords and put my pedals away. Yeah, and I don't have like one of those like power chains. I need to get a power chain, so I'm not having to plug in every single pedal into like a power strip. That's my next step too. Is getting one of those.
There you go. Well, anything else, Josh, before we wrap this up?
Man, I don't know, man. This has been fun. I don't know what else to add. I mean, I love you guys. It's a pleasure playing with you guys, and I know we're all friends outside of this, and we've been talking about doing this for a while, and
for sure. Garrett also wanted to make it, but unfortunately couldn't. But he sends his love. Right. Jules, did you have anything else before the big question?
Yeah, I would just say that like looping is it's also something that can it's interesting how when you first start looping, when you first start taking this stuff up on, I mean it's weird. It's like, I've learned this sort of thing where the first time you do something and you think it's good, you're probably under the spell of like kind of newborn parent spell where like it's like your kid is crying. It's not, it's like it's not, I don't know. It's probably not as cute as you think it is. It's like, it's a mess right now. It just got born, give it a moment, like go do a revision. I mean, not on your kid, but on your, anyway, but like, I'm just saying that like, that like, the first time you do something, you can get very self-absorbed in it and think and with loopers and the sonic things that you build that total out to more than one person normally does can be a thing where like it can blind you and reality pushes back, so like you're inside your loop, you're inside your thing, and then but you're ultimately dependent upon like how reality and the external pushes back on you. And this is the thing that you were getting at too, which I'm really like part of what I think we should get to at some point, maybe in its own conversation, would be like how the visual aspect of looping oftentimes when you divorce the visual aspect from the music, it doesn't carry over because you're like, what's this tapping going on for 8 bars? And then what's this next, this bass line's coming in. They couldn't have evolved this faster, especially if one is not aware that the content is generated via like a person who is looping. Then you're just like, what is this? And so when I did a looper album a few years back, I realized this, but I wasn't about to like, I don't know, go redesign the wheel of what I've done. I was like, all right, well, boys, we got to shoot video on a live album, you know, like, so all this being said, man, I'm really excited to see how you create an audio looper album that gets past that issue. Because I know that I've run into that myself, and I'm eager to see how you manage that and tackle it. And all the cool shit that you've actually been able to like do something about that, because it's an issue. And the way that the external, you know, pushes back on you, and the way that you've taken that information, I think there's a lesson to be learned for all musicians, even if they don't ever loop, you know, to not resist what the external has to inform you of, because that's your guiding. I mean, so long as it's coming from actors of good faith, right? That's your guiding truth. Sure. I would say, you know, so, okay. That's what I got.
Yeah, man. No, I love that, man. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you got to like, I feel like with the album version of something, it's not going to replace or be the end all, you know, like that's the version that you have to play live. Like, you know, I feel like my live version, I mean, you're going to tell that it's the same song, right? But when we're in the studio and recording it, you know, there might be, you know, we might shave off like maybe the first like 30 seconds, like, and maybe tighten it up a little bit, maybe combine a couple like loops. Like, I'm not afraid to do something like that for like sonically to kind of get to the first verse a little bit quicker. But there's also like some mindful things that you can do, like when looping, like sometimes when I play live, I will double stack like a sound just because I like the way it sounds, like being played twice on top of each other. It just kind of boosts that sound. And but when I'm playing it for the album, I'm not gonna do that. I don't have to. I want to get to the song quicker. And so I think there's little tricks that you can do like in the studio to kind of kind of get to the track a little bit sooner. You don't have to play. I mean, you don't want to lose that essence of, you know, like you want to show that the track is being built, that it is a live loop. But you also want it to sound, you know, like a well-made song, well-structured, and you want it to get to that song part quicker too, so people don't lose interest. Because, you know, in today's day and age, like, you know, people will listen to the first 30 seconds of a song and decide if it's something they want to continue listening to. And so you have to keep that in mind when you're kind of structuring the way the song's going. But you don't want to, you know, completely, you know, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think you get the idea.
Totally get it. Yeah, man.
But yeah, man.
Hell yeah. All right, you ready for the big question?
I think I know what's coming.
Yeah. All right, Josh, what's your favorite pizza topping? I mean, what is your favorite? What do you love about music?
I love. I knew this was coming, and I had thought about it, and but no, I love the. I know this has all been said before, but like it's like the mystery. It's a different language, and I like that you don't have to like. It's like having a conversation with yourself, and but it's also more than that. You don't have to, like, words don't have to string together the way they do in a conversation. They can just you don't have to say anything at all. You can just kind of hum something, and you can just make something from nothing. And it just I think I just love like the feeling, like playing music. It just gives you like an energy, and there's an energy that's given back, and it's just this constant reciprocation between the listener and the performer. And I think I love that that energy can take songs to another height, and it can influence the song in a way like that. I can't think of anything else that can do that can build this energy up from nothing. And it's just, I think I'm constantly chasing that and just chasing that feeling, that energy, and just kind of constantly just trying to feel that energy in a room, because it just builds the song. And I just think that's a beautiful way to look at it. So, yeah.
It's a perfect answer. Thanks. All right, Mr. Glenn, Mr. Yosh, mad folk scientist.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Finally getting to have this conversation. We've been talking about it for a couple months now.
Yeah, we've been trying to get together for a while. I'm glad all the stars came and aligned. Let's
get that album recorded.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Yosh Yimmy and Jules.
That's right,
man. Right. Looking forward to August 1st at the amphitheater.
Yeah, that's right. Down in Corpus Christi.
That's right. All right. Until next time, I guess we'll talk to you later.
All right. Love you guys.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.